take that walk, I could fly. Just go ahead, right? That's fun. Oh, God. Does he have a name?
That's a big, beautiful.
Oh, it's a beautiful baby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful baby.
Oh, it is beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Oh, hello, gorgeous.
Oh, my God.
Simon says, do this.
Yeah, right? Gorgeous,
Show me
though.
how beautiful you are.
Wow.
Oh, it's so cute.
This is,
Oh, my goodness.
this is called a northern saw-whet owl. And for this little short owl, I'm going to give you a long name explanation. Obviously northern, it mostly is nesting north of New Jersey. So New England, Canada, in the forests in those areas. And they do migrate south through or into New Jersey for the winter. And that is why this one showed up here. They do occasionally nest in the state. There have been a few documented nests, and those were found in birdhouses, like the one on the table up front. That is a nest box that we put up for another native owl for New Jersey, a screech owl, but there's no sign on it, so saw-whets can go in there too.
No occupation.
Such small eyes.
So this guy is here for, unfortunately, the most common reason we get in raptors. It was hit by a car.
Oh.
Again, they're coming from northern areas, less roads, less traffic. They come down here, usually starting in October, they start moving through, and they get clobbered, unfortunately. This one hit head on. It suffered eye damage. He's actually really squinting because he doesn't want to show you his weakness. That's typical of a wild animal. They want to hide if they've got a handicap. They don't want to show it because that's an invitation to a predator. And he's just, you know, not letting you see how bad his eyes are. He still can manage with us pretty well, but obviously he's not going to be able to take care of himself in the wild. So that's why we got permission to care for him and use him to educate people. And hopefully prevent some other saw-whet owls from getting hit by cars if people are a little more aware. And I will also say, this weekend marks the start of our busiest time for taking in owls hit by cars. Why? Change of time. More of us are going to be driving on the roads when it's dark. And the peak time for owls to start hunting is right around twilight, dusk. That's when they get active, and that's when we're going to be on the road more. So we get more owls in. The other thing that adds to that complication is if we get snow on the ground, especially for the smaller owls like this one, it's hard for them to get to those mice if the mice are under the snow. And so the mice have to cross roads. They'll come out onto the roads to try to get the mice. Now, the name of this owl, a northern saw-whet owl. Some of you might be at least more familiar with this than the first graders I talked to. The sound that this owl makes reminded the scientist that was naming it of someone taking a saw and sharpening the teeth of the saw over a wet stone.
Ouch.
The W-H-E-T stone. Now, I have never heard that. One of these days, I guess I have to try, but I'm going to do my best imitation of the call, or one of the calls of the saw-whet owl, and it goes something like, so if that sounds like someone taking a saw over a wet stone, that's where the name comes from. I didn't make that up.
How long do they live?
So he's turning his head because his hearing still works great, and it's the nature of owls to turn their heads when they hear something. because they can't move their eyes. So even though he's not seeing a whole lot, he's still turning his head, responding to the different sounds he's hearing, trying to make sure there isn't something dangerous that's nearby. We've had, unfortunately, sad reports of thousands of birds dying from window strikes just in this migration period. So there's a lot for them to contend with, and they have to really learn the skills on their own. So if they can survive past that first learning year, if they're lucky, they can probably live into their early teens. Now, bigger birds can, yeah. Excuse me?
Here comes out the hawk. She's having a hard time getting it out. Oh, gorgeous. Oh my God, that's a beauty. Show me your wingspan. Oh my goodness.
So this is a hawk. I am sure all of you have seen one like it, whether you knew what you were looking at or not. Because I would say in this area, outside of vultures, this is the most commonly seen raptor. And it has an easy to figure out name. If you look at the tail.
Red-tailed hawk.
Red-tailed hawk. Red-tailed hawk. So the tail on the adult is always a reddish brown color, distinct from the brown feathers on the back and mostly light colored feathers underneath. So when you look up in the sky and you see a bird soaring, it's easy to tell vultures from red-tailed hawks because vultures are dark all over. And
He
the
is
red
a
tails,
beauty.
when you see them in the light, you'll see that light
Don't do
coloring
that.
underneath. Now, if you
You're
don't
teasing
see the
him.
red tail, you can still identify them by the way they hold their wings and fan out their tail. They've got broad wings built for soaring, so you'll see them on a nice day, like today, just circling, not having to flap a lot, just soaring around. And the other thing on red tails, and I will say there are a lot of individual differences. They're not all identical. On red tails, you will notice that they don't have a lot of streaking on their upper chest, but they do have some heavy streaking between their legs, or what we call the belly band. And that is a field mark to go by. If you see a hawk that's soaring, no heavy streaking on the chest, but the streaks between the legs, around here you're seeing a red-tailed hawk.
It's amazing how powerful the legs look.
Yes, they are powerful. I will say, you know, he's not trying to hurt me in any way, but he does have the power to grab, and even with this glove on, he could hold so tightly that my fingers would go numb. And there's no way I would get him to let go if he clamped down. But again, he's used to me. I'm not saying he loves me or anything, but he's used to me, and he understands the routine. So he unfortunately has to work for a living and
Gorgeous.
and earn the mice. So yeah. So this, by the way, his name is Vern. He was found in Vernon. He was again, a very typical story. A guy had spotted him on the ground on his way to work. Didn't think much about it because red-tailed hawks come down on the ground to grab that rat or grab the snake or whatever it is they're going after. But then, that was Friday. Monday, when he went to work again and saw the hawk still in the same spot on the ground, he took a closer look and realized the wing was broken. So we know this bird was on the ground for at least 3 days, injured, before we got a call about him. And we got him, we got the bone to heal, but there was so much other damage to the muscles, the tendons. So he can fly, but not well enough to go back into the wild. Red-tailed hawks are good flyers. I already mentioned how they can just soar on the wind, and when they're hunting, when they're diving on prey, they can go at 100 miles an hour to dive down on prey. Pretty incredible birds. So unfortunately, we did try for over a year with him in the flight cage to see, and we could tell from his flight that it just wasn't up to what he needed to go back in the wild. So then we got him used to hanging out with us, and hopefully, again, preventing some of the other accidents, or certainly preventing someone from just driving on and ignoring him when they see an injured bird on the side of the road. And if this doesn't show you, I don't know what will. Birds do survive getting hit by cars. Most often, if the driver of the car brings the bird to us, we can get it back to the wild.
There's one more coming out. Ooh! Oh my goodness!
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. What is that?
Well, I understand why you would think that, because around here, all the hawks that we see are light on the front. The vultures and the eagles are dark. However, I will add that this is not normally a hawk you would see in New Jersey. Although she was hit by a car in Jersey City.
Oh, whoa.
The people called up and they said, they named the species, they said they had an injured Harris's hawk.
They must have
used
the identifier on.
Well, actually this was a different circumstance. It turned out the guy was a falconer.
Oh.
He was flying his hawk in the park, and she was hit by a car. She suffered severe injuries to both legs. He did want her treated, but did not want to keep her anymore. So that's how I ended up with a non-New Jersey Harris's hawk. She is fine now. You know, her legs have healed. It was a long process, but painful memories.
Oh, sweetheart.
She has never truly been in the wild. She has never been in her natural habitat, which is the southwestern United States and Central America. So, yes, in typically arid areas, that's where you find Harris's hawks. And if we were to try to put her out there, not only would she be at a disadvantage because she's unfamiliar with that and never been truly wild, but the other thing is Harris's hawks are different from our hawks here in that they stay together as family groups. And they actually hunt together. And this makes sense in an arid area that they would be able to kind of share the chase, which can be pretty exhausting in the heat, but they can take turns and succeed and share, and the young actually stay with the parents for a longer period of time. So, so again, she would have all the disadvantages if we threw her out there. So she is used to people. Instead, we're trying to educate people.
Two questions. Why didn't you want the hawk?
Because she was injured.
Okay, but how young?
She was less than a year old when we got her. She was hatched in captivity. I know her birth date is February 14th, 2009.
That's kind of a sick hobby.
It's not a hobby that I do. If I have a healthy bird that can go back to the wild, I want it to go back to the wild.
What's his point then? I mean, what's a falconer's point?
You would have to ask the falconers. That would be the fair.
I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, it's beautiful markings. I mean, once you learn the markings of this bird, you're not going to confuse it with anything else if you see them. You know, black on the body, but with that brown on the wings and the legs, and then the white on the tip and the base of the tail. So really, really beautiful bird.
So let me backtrack that.
obviously people admire these birds that have them, and I can appreciate the fact that the birds that can fly, like this one, could fly free, but hopefully come back. We have ended up with a couple of falconer's birds because they got away from the falconer and didn't go back. So, you know, all sorts of things happen, but they are magnificent and impressive. So I hope you enjoyed. I didn't scare anybody.
It's beautiful.
And certainly if anybody, you know, wants to contact us, I do have information on the table up front and our contact information. If you have a question, a issue with a bird or whatever, wild bird, I'll emphasize, certainly you're welcome to call us. And we do get calls about other wildlife, and I do try to refer people to the right person for those.